Brad, have you seen the back page of the paper from Wayne Carey today that your boys can win the flag?
Yeah, I think it's. I haven't read it, but I've seen it. There are a lot of papers on the tables around here, so as long as the players aren't sort of starting to believe the hype too much and are focusing on what we need to do in every given moment, and that's the challenge. But I think it's great for our football club that certainly the possibility is being spoken about, but at all levels of or all codes in elite sport, it's always about controlling what you can control, and the only thing we can control at the moment is this next game.
Have you received any phone calls from your brother this week? Any texts?
No, we don't. We don't communicate during the week leading up to the games for obvious reasons. So, but no, we'll touch base on Monday when we come together for the big freeze at the G.
Have you got your costume ready?
Yeah, it's ready. It's ready, but it's a closely guarded secret.
An update on Joe White. How close is he?
Yeah, he's very close. But look, we probably made a decision early in the week that he wouldn't play, just purely, in terms of risk management. We go into a bye next week, so it makes a lot of sense to give him at least another 2 weeks to fully recover, so that he can launch an assault on the second half of the year. So just when you weigh up all the pros and cons, I mean, even if the medical staff had said, look, he's 100%, I wouldn't have thought it would be the prudent thing to do to play him this week.
Same story for Anderson.
To a similar extent. Obviously Jed's a lot younger than Wadey and has had pretty good continuity through this season, but again, he's very, very close. But we just think in terms of risk reward, it makes a lot of sense to make sure that he's absolutely right with the bye next week.
The question you probably get a fair bit about Ben Jacobs, but this week there's 3 candidates. Have you decided on who he could go to? Maybe there's 4 candidates. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think there's 6. I mean, it's I think that as there understandably is a lot of focus on Ablett and Selwood and Dangerfield, but Mitch Duncan's been in really, really good form, and I think he's a really important player for Geelong, and Tim Kelly's been a revelation this year. So there's, I'm going to take away from Sam Menegola either. So they're very deep midfield clearly, and Ben's going to have a role in there on one of them, and I suspect more than one at different stages throughout the game.
Number 1 and 2 ranked defences in the competition. Do you think it's going to be hard to score, especially the conditions down there?
Yeah, I think it's, when you look at the way sides defend, I mean, if you get the game on your terms, you can defend pretty well. But I think with the style that both teams play in terms of their defence, if you can break through that, there'll be opportunities to score. So, yeah, I couldn't predict how the game's going to go, but I wouldn't necessarily assume that it's just going to be a defensive struggle. I think both teams have the ability to go forward and score pretty heavily. So it's going to be a defensive challenge to maintain our structure against a really good offensive team in Geelong, and hopefully it's the same for them.
Have you sought some?
Can you give us some clarity around what you've spoken to you or the club has spoken to the AFL about in regards to the treatment of Ben Brown and the umpires?
Okay, answered your question. No, we haven't spoken to the umpires about Ben. I've been on record a number of times saying if we think that it's going to be an ongoing issue, then we'll certainly follow up with the umpires. But we looked at all the instances of Ben's one-on-one or two-on-one contests throughout last week, and we felt that, sure, while there may have been some infringements, umpires make mistakes and they see some and they miss some. But we're really confident that the umpires are looking for the right things, and that they make calls, they get some right, they get some wrong. But our focus is just on making sure Ben just keeps competing, because when he does that, he's really hard to stop. No.
What about, you got to look at the forward structure without Wadey last week? Will you tweak that at all? Were you happy with how it went?
Yeah, I was probably happier in the first half than the second half, even though we kicked 9 goals in the second half. So, yeah, I mean, Zeeble has added another dimension to it. There are some other midfielders we can roll forward at different stages. But we still got, by probably most comparisons, a reasonably tall forward line with what we can throw down there and what we can challenge. And we've got some defenders who can also go forward. So we think there's enough flexibility in our team to cover Wadey, but obviously we'd like to have him, and that's the reason why we want to make sure that he's absolutely right before he comes back.
The so-called Fix the Game committee met yesterday, threw up ideas such as extend the goal square to 25 metres and the last touch out of bounds. Any thoughts on those?
Well, I'm open to all suggestions, and I think that the great thing that Steve Hocking and the AFL are doing at the moment is throwing it wide open, and no suggestion is too bizarre or too left field, and then we'll throw everything on the table and then try and refine it and come back to something that is going to improve the look of the game. But again, I don't think my primary focus on the competition committee is to suggest how we improve the look of the game, because that's not my primary function. My primary function is to try and win games. And so again, I can give a response to any suggestions that are thrown up as to what I think coaches will do to counter that. So throw them all up, I'm sure we'll land in a good spot. But again, my prevailing view is that the game's pretty good.
What about playing at the Cattery? Obviously, they're pretty hard to beat down there. Do you have to play any different yourself?
Not really. It is one of the few remaining unique grounds in the AFL, but we really feel that we're suited to that style. It's not too dissimilar to ANZ Stadium where we used to play, where we played Sydney in a final, and we really enjoy playing on that shaped ground. So Geelong obviously train there, so you'd have to say it's an advantage to them, but we don't think it's a huge disadvantage to us.
And touching back on the big freeze, what does it mean for you as a coach to be a part of something like that?
Yeah, it's an honour. Neil has been just an unbelievable member of the coaching fraternity over a long period of time, both as a coach himself, but also through the Coaches Association. And so we all coaches feel an affinity towards Neil. But to the greater MND cause, it's just it's a terrible disease, and I'm honoured to be part of such an important event. And as Lewis Martin from Channel 7 said to me last night, I don't think that everyone's going to grasp the enormity of the day until we're actually there and involved. So it's an honour to be involved, and hopefully everyone gets right behind it, because the fundraising effort goes right through till Monday night, and the government will match every donation dollar for dollar. So I hope everyone gets behind it.
Just another, quick one on the, Duck obviously has high hopes and thinks you can go all the way, and pre-season you were talking about paring it back a bit and coaching on the shop floor, I think you said one time, and
yeah.
I mean, do you pinch yourself a bit that you've sort of been spoken about like that?
No, I mean, again, I haven't read the article, but I assume it's more about opportunity, and the Bulldogs and Richmond to a lesser extent have done everyone a favour the last 2 years in showing everyone what's possible. But again, we just focus on what we can do, and I still am on the factory floor as a coach. I mean, we have a lot of work to do to build our midfield. We've had some great stories so far this year in Jacobs coming back and Jed Anderson's form coming into our midfield, but we still need to build that. Luke Davies-Uniacke's had some exposure there, but we're doing a lot of work on building that midfield and building our young key position stocks, so that when and if we need them, they can come in and perform that role. So our medical staff have done a fantastic job to get us into this position, but we know that we can't just rely on having our best team available every week. We need to work really hard on what's underneath.